What is up, everybody? I just finished my second playthrough of Dragon Age the Veilguard as a mage. This playthrough I did on easy mode, on the story mode, which significantly reduced the playtime. My first playthrough came in at 76 hours on normal mode, and that was the rogue playthrough, and then this playthrough came in at 60 hours, like right at 60 hours on easy mode. And I have some final thoughts on the game now that I've gone through two different playthroughs and had a chance to really sink my teeth into the depth and breadth of what is Dragon Age the Veilguard. So my final review still stands. The rating I gave the game does not change. But I will say that after a second playthrough, I definitely have thoughts on a variety of different things related to storylines, companions, and the differences you're going to see through multiple playthroughs. Because I know there is if you listen to the vocal minority, there are people out there who say that there's no difference in your playthroughs in this game, and that it doesn't matter what decisions you make, it all turns out the same. And that is just blatantly not true. So one of the cool things about live streaming both of my playthroughs is we had a great turnout for both playthroughs across both YouTube and Twitch. And we had people in the live stream chat who have played a variety of different combinations that were completely different to mine. And they made a lot of different decisions than I made on my way through. And I saw quite a few differences in my playthroughs. And listening to people in chat, there are additional, I think we're up to about 60 different things that we've heard or seen people talk about through the various playthroughs that they've had, which is a far cry from the people who have claimed that there's no variance at all out there. I think the most recent terminology that I'm seeing people throw around is that this is just a friendship simulator, and that there's no difference in gameplay, there's no difference in the endings, there's no difference with the companions. None of it really matters because you're just having conversations for the sake of having conversations, and that none of the decisions matter in the game. And I think we've already proven that blatantly false in my two playthroughs, plus based on all of the commentary that we've seen from other people. But I think for me, the thing that I most enjoyed my second playthrough was the foreshadowing that is in the writing and in a lot of the things. It's no different than when you watch a complicated movie like Memento, for an example. The first time you watch it, you're like going, what the fuck did I just watch? And then the second time you're like, oh, I get it now. And then the third time you're like, oh yeah, that makes even more sense. There were definitely things along the way that made more sense this time, and I'm going to be getting into spoiler territory from here on forward. So if you have not yet beat the game, it's been out for 3 weeks. I would think most of you who are going to play the game have probably played the game by now, but fair warning, everything after this is spoiler territory. We're 3.5 minutes in, so just be warned. Whatever it takes is obviously a phrase that has way more meaning the second time through than it does the first time through the game. And also knowing what we know about Varric and Solus definitely brings more impact to a lot of the conversations you have throughout the game, knowing what you know from your first playthrough. There are also subtle differences. As an example, my first time through, when you meet the blighted mayor, the blighted town, I chose to leave the mayor in the grips of the blight. He then became blighted, and I fought him as a boss mob champion at the end of my first playthrough. Second time through the game, I chose to release him, and he still ended up falling under the sway of Elganon and becoming one of the blood cultists, the Venatori cultists, or whatever they are. I forget the names sometimes. Other people, because there were people in our live chat who did playthroughs where they had like a warden character, said that if you do a warden character and you save him, he ends up showing up as a warden character fighting the blight. in the Hossberg wetlands as you go through there and help the wardens with those side quests for the region and the faction. Those are some of the little differences that we talked about at the beginning of the video, but also are things related to just making different decisions as you go through your playthroughs. There are also different decisions that can happen based on being a warden and the way you deal with the first warden and whether or not he gets blighted or not, or whether or not he shows up at the cauldron or not, and how that ties into the Gloom Mother, Gloom Haven. I forget the name of the Gloom Witch bitch that is trying to corrupt the Griffins. The Gloom Reaver. Anyway, lots of little things that are different, and lots of conversations that mean something completely different the second time around because you have the foreshadowing. I think one of the biggest, most impactful moments for me was towards the end of my second playthrough when you are having the last final meeting before you go into the end game, right? And both Davrin and Harding look directly at the camera and give that line about, whatever it takes. It's and knowing that one of those two individuals are going to get sacrificed, it's just like, man, that's super impactful. Now, even though my review doesn't change, the score doesn't change, I will say this after having played the game a second time. I do think that when you compare this game to Mass Effect 2 as an example, with Mass Effect 2, you could legitimately get a perfect ending where everyone survived. Same thing with Mass Effect 3. You could choose, if you went the red ending and you had your battle scores high enough and everything else, you could get the perfect endings in both of those games where everyone survives. That is not the case here. One of two characters is going to die every single time. And it is very important for the story, because whatever it takes, regret, those are all major themes in the story of this game. And it's an incredibly impactful decision when it happens. But I know some people are like, oh, this sucks that I can't save everyone. And I will admit that there is a part of me that says, man, it would be cool if we could save everyone. But I understand that it doesn't serve the purpose of the story. And that's the important thing to understand as a consumer of the story, as a fan, as a player of the game. We do not own the IP. We do not get to dictate what happens with the IP. All we can do is come along for the journey. And so I understand, as a writer myself and as a game director and as someone who has created things to put out there to the public, I understand that, there are sometimes decisions that someone has disagreed with me on when it comes to the way characters have ended. But at the end of the day, everything serves the purpose of the story. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload, or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. And so, yes, there's a part of me that wishes that I could save everyone, but I also understand that it's impactful, and both of those deaths are incredibly impactful. I can also say that having done the 3 different endings for Solus now, I saved him the first time, and then this time through we just finished this up on the live stream where the first ending was I tricked him. That felt very satisfying. It was incredibly satisfying to trick the trickster. That was a good ending. But then fighting him, and then you just punch him in the face and then stab him with the dagger. Both of those endings felt incredibly satisfying. And also his rant about how you're just insignificant mortals and he's a god, and you really see Solus's true colors shining through the lies. It's nice to have different ways for the ending to come up. So I think for me, the end of my second playthrough, my favorite part of the second playthrough was the foreshadowing and being able to sit back and look at all the dialogue and go, oh, I know what that means now. I know what that means. I know what that character means when he says that. I know what that line of dialogue means. I know there was a moment when early in the game when you're first talking to Solus in the Fade, and he makes a line of something along the lines of, Varric is, and then he goes ... and then he continues his you know, what Varric is, stubborn and all this other stuff. But what he was going to start to say was Varric is dead. But then he changes his mind and decides to lie to you. And knowing what you know about Varric the second time around, that moment is something that jumps out to you and goes, oh, it's so cool. So, very much enjoyed the second playthrough. It was obviously about 15 or 6. It was 16 hours exactly, shorter than my first playthrough because I did this one on story mode. And that was even with doing a bunch of the side quests that I did not do my first time around. I did get the perfect ending, so to speak, for my second time around. I didn't lose anybody other than Harding. My first time around, I lost Davrin and I lost Emmerich. But this time around, I knew what I was doing, so I was able to get a perfect ending. I did a lot of different things this time around. I saved Minrathous the first time. This time around, I saved Treviso. So this time around, Nev was the hardened character, whereas the first time around it was Lucanus. I romanced Tash this time around, and God did it feel good to be manhandled by her at the end of the game. I was able to finally climb that braid, ride the horns, grab the horns and ride the wave in. It was incredibly satisfying. I would love to do a third playthrough. It's not going to happen anytime soon. I've got other games to do. Like, we're getting ready to go into Stalker 2. We've got the Star Wars Outlaws DLC. We've got Indiana Jones and the Great Circle coming up and a bunch of other stuff next year as well. If I were to ever do a third playthrough, I would do a Dwarven Grey Warden warrior, just to see the other archetype and to just do things slightly differently. Romance a different character, probably romance Harding in that playthrough, dwarf on dwarf action. But who knows if that'll ever happen. In the meantime, it was great seeing all of the people come out and watch the streams and tell me about their differences in story, because there was a lot of things that I was doing where people were going, I didn't see that in my playthroughs, and there was a lot of stuff that they were talking about that I didn't see in their playthroughs. So there's plenty of replayability here. Definitely a fun game, whether you view it as a friendship simulator or an RPG. I don't really care how you view it, as long as you just have fun while playing it. That's the most important thing. So for me, I had fun through both playthroughs. Can't wait to continue on to the next game, and I will have fond memories of this as a great entry into the Dragon Age franchise, and I cannot wait for Mass Effect 5. So onwards and upwards. We'll see you in the next one, everybody. Stay safe. Love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. What are some of your favorite differences that you saw in your second or third playthrough? Because I know some of you on your third, some of you are even on your fourth playthroughs, which is crazy. If I had all the time in the world, I might do that, but I don't. So I'm on to the next one. So until then, everybody, stay safe. Happy gaming. Daily streams on YouTube and Twitch every single day. See you tomorrow.